Hey guys, today at Peak Mtn Camps, we are going to be going through our water setup. We've received a lot of questions recently in regards to how our camps are set up as far as water goes, how our holding tanks are, our plumbing, how you winterize it, some of those things. So we're going to go through some of those setups, and we're going to start here in our back compartment. Now, I don't know if a lot of you knew, but all of our freshwater setup is in the insulated space. So, you know, it's very nice when you're using it in colder climates. You don't have to worry about any of your fresh water because, like I say, it's in insulated space, all your plumbing, everything that way. So anyways, we'll go ahead and get started here in the back with our freshwater tank. So as you look in this compartment, we've got these storage lights in each of them, so it makes it easy to get gear out or whatever. But as you look in here, you're probably wondering, well, I don't see any freshwater tank or pump or anything of that sort. We put this divider up here just so as you're cramming gear in here as we do, you don't hit anything and break anything up. So this divider's in here just to protect that stuff. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll pull that divider out and let you see what's behind. Here is a look of the freshwater tank and pump and some of the plumbing with that access panel removed. Now this is something cool. This is something that Camp Liberty had made for us. Kind of shows you the process as far as which way the valves go for draining and the flow of things. But you've got two valves basically. You've got this first valve, which is your freshwater drain. And so as you turn it, there's a tube that goes down through the bottom that you can see here that will drain your freshwater tank. Now it'll drain from both directions. Okay, and this second valve that you're gonna come to is winterization. And so it makes it really convenient depending on how you winterize, whether you use antifreeze or whether you like to use air. Really doesn't matter to us, but I'll show you some of the reasons why you might use one versus the other. So this, what it does is it's got this clear tube. You'll go ahead and you'll put this into your antifreeze bottle, and then you'll flip that valve so that your pump sucks through that. Makes it really convenient. It's a nice thing that you don't have to unhook your pump and hook another line up to it. But really convenient in regards to winterizing. What I think I want to do in this video is maybe just show you the different features first, and then I can go through the procedure of how to winterize, how to drain, that sort of stuff. So the next thing we'll look at is our fills. Now this is something that's really nice. You've got your city water hookup as well as your fill on this side, all your electrical and your waste. Now what this is great for is if you are planning on going to KOAs or you know, these campgrounds throughout the United States, all of your hookups are gonna be on the driver's side. So it's nice to have everything set up to where all you've got to do, you don't have to run cords or, you know, hoses or anything underneath your trailer to get to the other side. But this is where you'll fill. This is your freshwater fill here. So your fill for your tank, you'll put your hose in here, fill it up. And a lot of you are probably wondering, well, how do you know when it's full if you don't take that divider off? Each of our Solitude as well as our Alpine series come with monitoring systems inside, so it'll give you an indicator of, you know, when the tanks are full. Same with your black and your gray. This is your city water hookup. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. So basically, if you're at home or somewhere where you've got water pressure, you'll hook right into it and it'll run off whatever pressure is available. Now a good idea to use with these is a pressure reducer, just for the fact that if you're traveling around, you don't know what kind of pressure is at these different RV parks. And so it's a good idea to have a pressure reducer just so that you don't blow anything up or break anything. All the plumbing in this camp has PEX throughout. So it's rated at really high PSIs, but some of your faucets and stuff tend to be really finicky about pressure. So it's a good idea to have a pressure reducer. And then this little thing here is another option to winterize. So this, you basically just hook your air compressor. It's got a little valve stem on it to where you can pressurize your system with air and blow the water out. Like I said, I'll go through some of the different ways of doing it and why you would do one versus the other. But that right there is our city water hookups and freshwater fill. The next thing that we're going to look at is the water heater setup. Now these are a DSI water heater, so it's a direct spark. So really all you've got to do is hit the button inside and it lights automatically. When the temperature cools down, it reignites. Kind of nice water heater. So the first thing, whenever I'm winterizing or even draining the water heater, if I'm not planning on using the camp for a while, I like to drain it to keep the water from, you know, getting sour and having that nasty smell. So the first thing that I do is I relieve the pressure from the relief valve. And why I do this is if you pull this plug and you haven't relieved the pressure, you're gonna get drenched. It comes flying out pretty quick. So I relieve that pressure, just open that until water stops coming out, and then I know that I'm good to take this plug out. Okay, now there's a bunch of different setups as far as how you can do these plug setups. I don't really care for these plastic plugs just because, as you can see, the corners on this are already rounded and it's kind of a pain in the butt to try and get anything in there to pull them out. Now the reason for these plastic plugs is it's actually a safety feature. So if you were to leave water in the water heater, say you forgot about it, it got cold and it started to freeze, this plug will actually blow out, preventing your tank from fracturing or breaking. And so they're nice that way, but a lot of you, if you follow Camp Liberty, he's modified his to where he's actually got a drain hose to where he pulls the hose out. It's got a quick turn valve on it. Makes it really easy for draining his water heater. Now, I would say if you're frequently draining your water heater, you know, that's a great route to go. And then we have this little quick access, which allows you to bypass that water heater. And so you can see these valves here. These will have a sticker as well, so you know which direction that they go. But anyways, you'll basically bypass the water heater with these two valves. And that'll allow you, if you're doing antifreeze, it'll allow you to pump about 1.5 gallons of antifreeze versus, 8 gallons because you got to fill your water heater. So nice little thing that way, saves you some money when you're doing antifreeze. If not, it doesn't really matter one way or another how you winterize it, whether it's air or antifreeze. But the bypass system makes it really convenient, a lot faster. On to the next thing that we've got to do when we're preparing this camp for storage is we've got to drain our tanks. Now, as you can see, our tanks are tucked clear up into the frame, allowing you to have even more clearance. These are your probes for your monitoring system that allows you to know, what your tank levels are and everything. But really basic setup. This particular camp doesn't have the heated tanks on it. But it's the same whether you get heated tanks or without. Basically, you've got your black water drain valve here and your gray water drain valve here. And so, as you pull into the dump station or as you're hooked up or whatever, you basically put your hose on the end of it and get it into the dump station and pull the valves, let it rip. Make sure you don't get it on your hands. But one thing too that we see a lot, if you are staying in a camp permanently, long periods of time, say you've got it into a septic tank or something on your property, one thing that people don't realize about travel trailers, we see that we get calls frequently to come to the RV park because their toilet's backed up. Now, what a lot of people will do is they will hook up their septic system to their trailer and then they'll just open all the valves. Now, in theory, that's great. But what happens is with your black tank, all of the liquid runs out and the solid stays until that solid builds all the way up to your toilet, and you're thinking, why has this not drained? And so a good practice is to leave that valve closed and just dump, once a week, or just keep an eye on your monitoring system to where you know how long it takes for that tank to fill up, and then pull it and drain it all at once. That way you've got enough fluids in the tank to carry those solids out to where you don't have the mess of dealing with, solids build all the way up to the toilet seat. Because I know for me, if you call me and that's the case, you're gonna pay a lot, just because I've got a very weak stomach. I do not like dealing with that stuff. So anyways, that's a pointer if you're planning on staying in it for extended periods of time and you're hooked up. Leave that black water tank closed and just drain it as needed. Your gray water tank, you're fine leaving it open. It'll run out. But overall, that's kind of the setup as far as the holding tanks. Very easy. Doesn't have to be messy if you do it right. Now I'll just quickly walk you through the process of winterizing with the air compressor. So the first thing that I'm going to do if I winterize is I'm going to remove my panel. I'm going to drain my tank. Okay, my other valve where I'm doing it with air, I don't have to mess with it. If I were to do antifreeze in the system, I would open that one up. But since we're just planning on doing the air compressor, we're not going to worry about that one. We're just going to drain the water out of our freshwater tank. Once that's complete, we'll come around to this side and we'll take care of our water heater. So like I showed you before, the first thing that you're going to want to do is relieve your pressure from your water heater by opening this valve. Leave it open till the water comes out. You can actually leave it open until it's all drained out. But I relieve my pressure and then I pull my plug. Now I like to leave my plug sitting in here, then I don't have to worry about losing it. I always know where it is. Pull the plug, let the water drain out, close it up. That's finished. Okay. Then while we're here, we will close our valves to our bypass setup. So we'll reach in there. I've already closed these. I apologize. I got ahead of myself. But I closed these already. So that we're bypassing our water heater. Now once this is done, we're ready to hook up our air, and we can go in and bleed all of the air out of the system. So I'll go ahead, get our air ready to hook up with that little adapter that I showed you previously, and I'll meet you inside the camp. Now this is really going to benefit you if you're by yourself trying to do this. I've found that these little lock-on air fittings work the best. Just because I can lock it on, I've got air constantly going through the system. Otherwise, you're going to have to get your wife or a friend to come and hold your air chuck on this little valve so that you've constantly got air in the system. But with this locking one, I basically can put it on, lock it on, and it's flowing through the system. So now I can go in the camp, start opening faucets, start bleeding the pressure off. So let's go ahead and go in. So you'll then come into your camp, head to your faucet, and what you'll do is you will just turn on your faucet, okay? And you will allow all the water to come out. I like to do each one at a time, just that way I can make sure everything's out. But you want to cycle it between hot and cold, make sure all the water gets out of that faucet. Okay, once you've got the water out of the faucet, you'll move on to your bathroom and you'll go to each fixture, making sure that you've got the water out of everything. Okay, I didn't have a ton of water in this. I basically just pressurized this camp to make sure I don't have any leaks. But you'll want to blow all of that water out of the system. Okay, once you get your faucets done, this is one thing that is overlooked. Everybody, it seems like, forgets to do the toilet. And it is probably the most prone to freezing and cracking. What'll happen is each of the toilets have a toilet valve, and it's basically a bowl that holds water. And so if you don't winterize your trailer, almost guaranteed your toilet valve's gonna freeze, and they run about $50 a piece. We have customers that come in that they replace them almost every year because they forget to do the toilet. And so it's very important. This is one area where the air doesn't work near as well as what the antifreeze does. So like I say, there's a little bowl that holds water. What happens is when you use the air will actually skim right over that toilet valve, over that bowl, and so it still holds water. And so even though you've flushed your toilet and you've got as much water as you can out of it, that toilet bowl still, or that toilet valve still has water in it. And so if you're concerned about it, like I say, this is an area where antifreeze is by far a better setup as far as making sure there's no water in your system. Air works great for the most part, but if you're in colder climates and you're concerned about it, I would say use antifreeze for sure. Once you've got the toilet done, you'll go around, do all of your other fixtures, whether you've got an outside shower, your inside shower. Just go through, make sure all of the water is out of the system, and then you're done. You can unhook your air and put the camp away. You'll obviously drain your black and your gray water tanks, get all of the water out of them. And I prefer to just leave the cap off and leave the valves open. So you'll just turn your valve. This one's tight. Turn your valve, open your gates, and I just leave it that way. That way I know that it's done. If I walk by and I see that my gates are closed, I wonder, oh, did I winterize that? Did I get all of the water out of my tanks? But this way I can just look at it and know that I've drained it. So anyways, I hope that helps you to know how to winterize your setup, gives you a little tips on what works good and maybe what works not so good in certain applications. Like I say, the only benefit to the antifreeze is that toilet valve. Making sure that toilet valve is to where it's not going to freeze and crack. Because like I say, we probably replace 7 to 10 toilet valves a week. It's a very common thing, but a lot of it just comes down to they haven't been drained properly. And so whether you prefer the air or the antifreeze, it doesn't matter much to us. In our experience, the antifreeze is just a more sure way of making sure things are ready for winter. But yeah, that's kind of an overall look of the setup. One last thing. If you do the air, you're gonna want to make sure that you put antifreeze down your P-traps. So all of your drains, make sure that there's antifreeze in them. Otherwise, they will freeze and crack as well. So anyways, hope that helps you out, gives you an idea of our system, how it's set up. Pretty easy, pretty simple to work. But we find that the simpler, the better. I mean, people, it's like, it's hard to find a minute to do anything anyways. So if we can make it as simple as we can on you, it just makes life a lot easier. That pretty well wraps up our water system. Like I say, pretty easy setup, really easy to work with. But hopefully you've learned some things and it makes it a little easier when you go about winterizing, whether it's one of these camps or a travel trailer in general. So anyways, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.